Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to explore something new and fun. We're going to build a kit for a camping / hunting / bug out bike. That sounds like something you want to see? Stick around. This is going to be fun. And in order for this plan to work, we're going to need a few things for our kit. One being transportation. That's what our bike is for. We're also going to need shelter. We're going to need a way to cook. We're going to need a way to start fires, and we're going to need to have a way to gather water. And along the way, we're going to talk about some strategies for how to make this work best once the project is done. We're going to talk about tactics and techniques for whether you're going hunting, camping, or bugging out. So let's get started. We got a lot of ground to cover. First off, let's talk about what we're going to do to this bike. For this setup, we're going to start with my Sonata Sabre Pro e-bike. It's got a good 1,000-watt powerhouse motor on the rear hub and a battery that boasts a range of up to 80 miles. We're going to need all of that power because we're going to be pulling quite a bit of extra weight. Now, to add a splash of color to this, we're going to use these Rust-Oleum camouflage paints. We've got some forest green and some flat khaki to kind of break up the patterns a little bit. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe this thing down with some alcohol just to make sure there's no surface oils or dirt or anything that's going to cause problems with the paint. While all this is going on in the background, I want to tell you all about something else you need to consider for this setup. You're going to need a good smartwatch, but one of the things you need to consider with said smartwatch is an ability to do things when the grid is down. My recommendation is the Cospit Tank. This is the Cospit Tank T4. Y'all may have seen in a video I did about a year ago. I was using one of the Cospit products and I have really enjoyed that thing. I think primarily the fact that you can get a really, really good smartwatch for about maybe a third or a quarter of what you'd pay for one of those fruit company watches. This thing can do almost everything that other watch can do, including downloading offline maps. You can also download music onto it, so you don't have to have any other device in order to listen to it. It has GPS capabilities. This watch can do just about anything that the more expensive smartwatches can do. I've had this thing for about a month now, and I've absolutely loved everything about it. Let me show you a little bit about what you get when you order this thing. Of course, you get the watch itself and a charging station. Once you get the watch, you'll use the app to help set up the things that you need. And it has the capability of being hooked up to your computer so that you can load things like your offline maps. You can also get other accessories like leather watch bands and my favorite little thing, the Power Pocket. This is a rechargeable device that you can keep in your pocket, in your pack, whatever. And then if your watch starts to lose power out in the field, you just stick it on there and it starts to recharge. The folks at Cospit have done a lot of upgrades on their watches since I had that first one, but this thing right here, they went at obviously thinking what would happen if you didn't have access to some of the things that you have when you're at home. Things like a power source or the internet. Of course, this watch works in conjunction with your phone, but it also works without it. You've got all kinds of functionality on here. You've got access to weather, you've got your heart rate, you've got your stress rate, your sleep rate, you've got a calendar. You've got everything you're going to need from a smartwatch on this device for so much less than you're going to pay for one of those other watches. This watch is so impressive that it's endorsed by the American gold medal winning Olympian Cole Hocker. Cole recently became the second American to win the 5,000 meter world championship in Tokyo. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Cospit is really pushing to get this product in front of people because they're getting ready to start their Black Friday sale. And there's a lot of videos out there where people do much more in-depth reviews of this product. But I figured that because this video is about preparing for things like a hunting trip, camping trip, or a bug out situation where you may not have access to internet and things like that, that because of the capabilities of this watch, I wanted to make sure this got included in this video. I'm going to leave a link down below so that you can go and check out what their pricing is like and what kind of discounts you can get. But I will tell you this, I haven't found a thing about this watch that I don't like. I mean, I've been wearing it every day, every night for over a month, and this thing has really impressed me. I don't get paid to say this. They just sent me the watch and asked me to try it out. This is an unbiased review. It is based on nothing other than my experience. But I have to say, this thing is a pretty dang good piece of gear. So go look at it. Think about adding that to your equipment list. I'm not looking to do a lot with this, just kind of break up the pattern and maybe cover up some of the orange that's on the bike. Because that right there is going to stand out. And so is that. So we got to get rid of that. All right, let's get to painting. there it is. The bike is, I think, sufficiently camouflaged. Got a few paint smudges, but I'm not looking for perfection with this. I'm just looking for something to break up the patterns, make it fit into a natural environment a little bit better. All right, there it is. That's the power behind this whole project. All right, so this is the seat that originally came on the bike. It's not uncomfortable. I was able to ride quite a bit comfortably with this seat, but recently I was at the local Amazon bin store and I came across this. It's a much beefier seat. It's got better padding. It's wider. I think for longer trips, this might be more comfortable. So I'm gonna try to mount it on my bike and test it out and see if it's gonna work. It's got a toolkit in here. Now I've got to swap out the post. The post itself is not gonna fit on here. So I'm gonna have to swap out the entire post mount to make this thing work. So let's see if that's gonna happen. Let's see what's in our toolkit for starters. First off, let's take the post off of this. All right, set that aside. All right, let's go see how this works. All right, it fits and it's a good looking seat. I like it. Now, one thing you're definitely gonna need with a project like this is storage. You're gonna have to carry things like the charging kit for the e-bike. So you're gonna need pockets, right? So a while back, I picked up these pannier style saddlebags. It was for a different bike, but I think with the color scheme and everything, it's gonna be perfect for this. Lots of storage, and the best part of it is, this piece right here is separate, and the whole thing can be taken off and just become luggage, essentially. So let's get this installed. We'll take this top piece off while we get everything set up, just make things a little easier. Now to attach the bottom piece, we kind of got to get in here under a bunch of stuff. Bring it around here, put it through this loop. Pull it tight. Connect it right there. Same thing on the other side. All right, now let's reattach the top. All right, there we go. Now we have our saddlebags. Starting to look like an adventure waiting to happen, isn't it? And now this gives us a place to keep our power supply. And now we're gonna be able to recharge our bike. And to give us a little more onboard storage, another item I picked up at the Amazon bin store, a waterproof case that gives us a place to put our cell phone. Let's get that put on. All right, there we go. A little bit of extra storage space. Next up, let's talk security. We gotta have a way to lock this thing up when we're not with it, right? I picked up one of these extra strength locks, and the great thing about these is they mount directly to the down tube. So let's get that put in place. There we go. Now we got a way to lock our bike. All right, so now it's time to move to phase 2 of this project. We're gonna need a way to recharge our bike, which means we're gonna need a way to get the equipment to do that wherever we're going. We're also gonna have to way to transport all of our stuff, our shelter, our cooking stuff, everything we're gonna need to survive out in the wild with this bike. So let's move over to round 2, see what happens next. Stick around. All right, let's talk about what comes next. So when I started looking at a way to transport all this gear, of course, the first thing I thought of was one of those little kids trailers that you pull behind your bike. Figured I could modify that to meet my needs, or I could just pick up a bike trailer and go with that. Now, one of my favorite shelters that I've ever camped with is my Camprite tent cot. Well, a couple of years ago, I came across a company that makes a similar tent cot, but it has wheels. It's designed to be pulled behind a bike. The problem was it's not always available. It's a very rare item. I've seen a handful of videos about them where people have gotten them and demonstrated them, but I've never been able to get one. So I just kept watching the company to see if they reintroduced it, and sure enough, they did. I ended up getting one of them, so let's get it out of this box, and let me show you what the foundation is going to be for our trailer system. I think there's going to be some assembly required. Well, let's dump it out. There it is. Bet y'all thought I was going to make you watch the whole assembly process. Believe me, you would not have wanted to watch it. It was pretty ugly. Other than the trailer and the tent cot, you've also got tent poles and water-resistant cover. Now, one of the cool things about this is you've got these legs for the cot that can be raised up, and these become like sidewalls for a trailer, for cargo storage. That's pretty sweet. Isn't that nice? All right, so now we got to talk about the cargo going on said trailer. But as you can see, the sun's going down, so that's a topic for tomorrow. So come back around then, see what happens. All right, it's time to load this thing up with the gear that we're going to need for whatever our situation is. I mean, honestly, whether you're camping, hunting, or bugging out, a lot of the stuff you're going to want to take with you is the same thing, especially under the circumstances of what we're dealing with here. So first off, we've got an electric bike. We need a way to charge it. So what are we going to do with that? Let me grab the first thing. Now, admittedly, there's probably going to be people that are going to see me load this thing on here and immediately are going to just switch out of this video and go away, because this is a little bit ridiculous. But think about this. Particularly if you're in a bug out situation, you need a way to generate power at some point, whether it's to fuel your bike or for some other reason. Power is always going to be a necessity. So if we can take something with us that will provide that for us, that's what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to sacrifice most of my weight when it comes to the things I'm going to put on here. So this is my A4E solar generator. I did a video review on this product a while back, and I was highly, highly impressed with this thing. For the price, for the weight, for everything that this brings to the table, this right here is hard to beat when it comes to those elements. So I decided to go with this one because I knew it could generate the level of power that I was going to need. I have the equipment to charge it with solar power, and it's lighter weight than most of the competitors of a similar size. Now, when loading this up, we have to put this in front of the axle, because if I put it behind the axle, it's going to put too much weight at the tail end, and I'm going to end up fishtailing, which could be devastating on a bicycle. So I'm going to put it right in the center of the front. That way, everything stays balanced. Keep that charged, I've got my A4E 200-watt solar panels, so we're going to bring these along as well. Now, one of the important things to consider when you're going to be out on any kind of excursion is you have to have the ability to prepare food. So we're going to need a stove, we're going to need dishes, we're going to need all kinds of stuff. A little while back, I came across a product from the Kelty company. They make a kitchen bag that is perfect for this application. Here it is. All of my kitchen stuff goes neatly into this bag. Let me show you what's in here real quick. All right, so the front just opens like this. You have a double zipper. And it opens up to reveal all of this storage space. Look at this. I'm not using near all of the space that's available in here, and I've got a ton of stuff. I've got my BRS stove right here. This is a 2-burner stove that folds away to be ultra compact. I've got a can of fuel. I've got my Pathfinder mess kit. I've got a pack of spices. Over here, I've got my Morin knife that has a fire starter. And it also bit me, so I need to go get something real quick. In here, I also have a set of cooking tools. This is a spatula and a spoon that turns into a set of tongs, as well as other fire starting capabilities. And I'm also going to keep my Barrow Cook with this gear. Just in the event that I don't have the time or the ability to start a fire, I can cook with that. Now, one of the cool things about this Kelty bag is that it has the ability to be hung from a tree or a fence or something like that, so that it's out of the way, but also so that everything in here is easily accessible. Now, this thing is, as I said, nowhere near packed out. I'm continuing to put things in here as I accumulate them, so if you have suggestions for things that I need to keep in this kit, please leave them in the comment section down below. Tell me about it. All right, so let's put this on our trailer. Now, today we officially have had our first day of introduction into cold weather. It's a chilly one today. You can see I'm wearing this jacket. So what I'm going to do for now is during the cold season, I'm going to keep an ultra low temperature sleeping bag with this kit. This is my Climate KSB Zero. It's a 0-degree rated sleeping bag. It's designed for bigger guys. I've lost a lot of weight over the last couple of years, and I bought this back when I was a little more on the hefty side, but it does have a little bit of extra room. Now, it's good and bad. It's good because I like to move around a lot when I sleep. It's bad because every bit of extra space inside a sleeping bag like this means heat that's escaping. So it's not a perfect mix, but this one's going to do for what I need. So let's get it on there. Now also, I'm going to include this large dry bag on this because I want to make sure that everything's as waterproof as possible. Now, it's not an ideal color, so I'll definitely have to be mindful of where this one appears during times when I'm trying to be a little more stealthy. But I can take a lot of the gear that can't get wet and put it in here and make sure that it stays dry, as well as my change of clothes, extra socks, things like that. In order to keep us hydrated, make sure we have fresh water at all times. I've got this Grail set up. This is the Grail GeoPress, and I got this Pathfinder cup that is a perfect fit for this setup. So I can use that to cook in, to drink out of, or just to kind of keep track of my GeoPress. And finally, there's the last little piece of equipment that's going to go with just the basic kit. Now, like I said, there's always going to be things that are going to get added into something like this. This is the basics. This is what I would keep on this while it's just sitting in the garage waiting to go. And that last item is a camouflage tarp. Now, this is a Gold Armor tarp. I've camped with this a few times. I absolutely love this tarp. It's very thin material, very lightweight, but it is super strong, and it's got camouflage on it so that if I have to make sure that I can't be seen, I can throw this over all of my equipment and be able to hide everything that I've got to some degree. Not to mention, I wanted something waterproof to be able to throw over the bike in the event that it starts raining. All right, so let's pack all this stuff, get it on the cart, and see how this is going to look with everything in place. All right, so with the dry bag here, I'm going to loop these straps through here so that it doesn't bounce out as we're going down the road. Tighten that down. No, that's not going anywhere. Put that over the rest of it. And there it is, all put together. Ready to roll. All right, let's go hitch this up to the bike and let's go for a ride. All right, it rides a lot smoother than I expected. I really kind of thought that with all the weight on there that it was really going to pull, make turning awkward, but it really didn't. It was a very smooth ride. This setup really works the way that it is. Also, the new seat, very comfortable. I love it. But now what we got to do is set up camp. So let's open this thing up. You guys still have not seen what this tent cot looks like. I mean, I showed you a picture of it, but let's set it up. Let's set up all of our gear and let's get ready to camp. Got to power up the bike, so we're going to need this. There it is. It's finally set up. It took me a couple of attempts to get it done because I didn't have any directions. It did not come with any instructions whatsoever, at least not that I've found. But there it is. It's together. All right, let's jump in here and see how comfortable it is. All right, so unlike my other tent cot, this doesn't really have any padding on the bottom of it. It's basically just like sleeping on a canvas cot. It should be comfortable, it's just not gonna be super comfortable. But it's very roomy in here. But the advantage to having a shelter like this, that for one, keeps you up off the ground. If you've got rainy weather, whatever, you don't have to worry that everything's gonna get saturated under you. The other thing is, it's got wheels. This thing is so easy to just keep it packed up, hook it up to the bike, hit the road when you want to, and not have to worry about all that extra preparation that goes along with it. But I think once I throw my sleeping bag in here, this thing's gonna be plenty cozy. We got the e-bike over there charging. There's a little bit of sunlight left today, so the solar panels are charging up the solar generator. So we've got the ability to make our own power, charge up our e-bike, and then just go until we can't go anymore. Now, I said I was going to talk about some tips and tricks and things for when you're going out on excursions where you're going to be using this kind of a setup. If you're going hunting, there's not a whole lot you're going to have to worry about. I mean, you've got the space for all your gear. You even got a place to bring back whatever game you bag. Now, if you're trying things like stealth camping where you don't want to be seen, or in a bug out situation, there are a couple things to keep in mind. One is traveling under the cover of darkness is probably a better thing than traveling during the day, especially when you're on an e-bike that's going to have to charge up at some point. So being able to stop and set up camp, set up your tent, and then while you're getting a little bit of sleep, you just let the sun do all the work. You set up your solar generator with the solar panels, hook it up to the e-bike, let it charge, and then let it just gather whatever extra energy it can. Now, you can't take your solar panels if you're riding during the day and set them over the top of all of your gear on your trailer and then just hook it up into your solar generator and let it just be charging while you're riding. But once again, if you're trying to be secretive, if there's a bug out situation, something like that, traveling during the night is the way to go. Now, when it comes to making camp, because of the fact that you've got these solar panels, there's a couple of things that you want to keep in mind when you're doing that. In order to kind of stay out of sight, if you're traveling on a road that travels east and west, when you set up camp, you want to set up on the south side of the road. The reason for that being that if you're in the continental United States, then the sun is always going to be to the south. Taking your solar panels, pointing in that direction so that they're not reflecting toward people that are traveling down the road, you're going to be able to stay off radar a little bit better. Plus, you can put your camouflage top behind you so that there's even more obscuring you from the road. Also, it's a good idea to keep something like a hammock in your gear. That way, if you ever kind of get the feeling like maybe somebody's caught on to you and maybe somebody's keeping an eye on you, looking for their chance to approach, then maybe you need to go in and set up your camp and then find a place to sleep that's away from the rest of your stuff. Not so far away you can't get there to protect it, but far enough away that you don't have to worry about being ambushed while you're asleep. Just a little something extra to keep with you just in case. And a small hammock is not going to take up that much room in your gear. This setup should work really well for you if you're stealth camping. We painted camouflage onto the bike. We've got dark colored gear. We've got a camouflage tarp. So if you're just trying to kind of avoid being seen, that's a pretty good way to go. Now, I realized I do need to paint the wheels on this camper because they are chrome. I need to break out that camouflage paint, kind of knock a little bit of that off of those. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, of course, always give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, ring the notification bell to be made aware of all upcoming videos, and as always, feed the algorithm by leaving a comment. The best thing you can do to keep this channel moving is comment. Also, if that little hype this video button shows up, click on that. Give us a little free love. Also, go find me on Instagram. I post stuff over there I don't put on this channel. And if you're interested, go check out our merch links down at the bottom and see what kind of new Dad Budget Adventure stuff we've got. We're working on some really cool new stuff, so keep checking back and watch for that. But that's going to be a wrap for this one. I'm going to break out my sleeping bag, spend the night in this thing, see how cozy it is. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been very different from some of my usual content, so I'm really hoping that everybody likes this. And if you've got suggestions for things that you would put on this, let's go all in. Let's say this is a bug out kit. What would you add to this mix? Understand, this video is not an all-inclusive thing. This is not everything you're going to need for it. This is the bare basics of what you need for this. So let's get a conversation thread going about all the other stuff that you might want to add here without adding too much more weight. Also, if you've got suggestions for how to make things even lighter, I'd love to hear what you've got to say about that. But that's going to be a wrap for this one. And until the next, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you around.